Spending $5,000 on Christmas is insane to me.
Your financial well-being, like you said, comes before their feelings and their disappointment. They aren't the ones paying your bills.
When it comes to your finances, like you really have to put yourself first, and a true friend would understand that.
This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Actually, this probably happens a lot more than we realize. Welcome to Just Another Money podcast with your hosts, Lauren and Nick. We're here to take real-world money situations and break them down into actionable steps you can actually use.
Whether you're budgeting, paying off debt, or saving for your future, we're all about making finances easy to understand and putting you in control of your money. Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's episode where we are talking about spending around the holidays and other special occasions. We're going to dive into some situations from real people who consistently find themselves fumbling with their finances every holiday season. But before we get into that, Lauren, I wanted to share these two holiday shopping statistics with you and get your take on it. So this first one is a survey by WalletHub, and they found that 46% of Americans surveyed are still paying off debt from last holiday season. Now, according to the National Retail Federation, holiday retail sales for the 2024 season are expected to hit a record high of over $980 billion. So question for you, if people are still paying off debt from last year, how is it that this year we are expected to hit a new high again?
Well, I'll first say that this is not shocking or surprising to me in the least bit. Credit card debt is in general record highs right now. And so it makes sense that you just put Christmas on there and you're just going to keep putting Christmas on there, right? So that's why we're going to hit a new record this season. I feel like social media, it doesn't help anything really.
Yeah.
But we're constantly seeing, what other families have got their kids, how they've decorated their homes and the things that we need, to feel that way. And it makes us feel unworthy because we don't feel like we're able to do the same. So unless you go into debt to do so, which I feel like a lot of people do to keep up with the Joneses, quote unquote. It's a nasty cycle because you spend the money for all of the gifts and decorations, and then you feel better. And then you get into the credit card statement and you realize you have to pay for it months and years into the future. So you never really get ahead. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we honestly people always say it, but we really do live in such a consumer based society. And people have gotten so used to this schedule of these yearly releases of just new stuff. And it's especially bad with electronics. There's always a new phone or watch or computer or camera or TV or pretty much anything else you can imagine. And, I think people, like you said, they always play the comparison game on social media, but I feel like a lot of people are kind of stuck in this mentality that being wealthy is more about how it looks to other people. And it's less about the financial security that you feel on the back end that maybe not so many people see as much of. But yeah, I think it's really concerning that people are still paying off debt from last year and we're going to hit a record high. I'm sure some of that is due to inflation and prices going up, but I'm not surprised that people are spending more this holiday season. But I did have another question for you. I'm curious, what time of year do you feel like is the most stressful for you? Is it only the holidays or are there other times of the year?
No. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody has issues around November through, January 1st, because there's two big holidays in there, one that has a lot of spending. So of course, for me, things get a little bit tight around those seasons because there's unexpected things that come up or, gifts that you need to buy for people. But also I noticed this in the summer. So I live in the north. So during the winter, we're inside most of the time, but in the summertime is when we thrive. So, friends are going to invite you out to go to dinner or go for a walk or, do something outside, an event or whatever. So I feel like I'm always being invited somewhere. Do you want to go on this trip with me? Do you want to do this? But that's just because in the north, it's so nice out in the summer. So I always feel like there's something to do. Plus there's always a ton of weddings in the summer. So that always seems to pop up.
Wedding season.
It always seems to pop up in that season as well. So those are the two times that I feel like my miscellaneous expenses really go up.
Yeah. I mean, Christmas, my wife and I are not big gift givers, and even for each other, we rarely buy each other Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. We much rather prefer to do something fun for Christmas. We'll do something fun together, and then our birthdays are really close to each other, so we'll do something kind of to celebrate both of our birthdays, and we prefer that so much more over trying to guess what the other person wants. And sometimes people will be like, hey, what does your wife want for her birthday? I'm like, I don't get her anything. She probably she really doesn't need anything. She'll probably just like feel guilty that you bought her something. But like you said, the summer is really where it gets bad, and probably for different reasons. But from May until the end of August, there's like over a dozen birthdays between both of our sides of the family. And I literally wrote these down because I was like, I'm not kidding. Like there are so many of these. So there's my brother, my father-in-law, my dad, my wife, my birthday, my mom's birthday, my grandma, my mother-in-law, my sister. And then there's also a few cousins sprinkled in there. So it's literally like every week back to back throughout the entire summer. Like it's made it to where our birthdays, it's like, I don't want it to be that time of, that season again, where it's just birthday after birthday. And it just, I don't know, it gets really stressful. So it's probably more stressful than the holiday season, but why don't we jump into this first scenario here?
Yeah, let's do it. So this first situation says, how do I explain to my family that I can't afford Christmas gifts? My budget is extremely tight this year. I'm single without kids, but my extended family have an expectation that I'll buy them gifts. Some have really pushed the idea that they bought me something and I need to reciprocate. Like the title asks, what's a good way to explain my situation and avoid their disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, if they've already kind of set these expectations and they've kind of seemed to be a little more transactional, where it's like, hey, I got you something, now it's your turn. Like, I feel like there's no way to explain it to them or to kind of run them through your situation to where they're not going to be upset when you say no. And so I think at the end of the day, like you kind of just have to decide what's best for you and stick with it. I think boundaries are going to be one of the most important things throughout this whole episode. But, I always find that people are more afraid to say no than they are to put themselves in like a financial hole. And yes. I feel like people would, like people would rather deal with like the burden on their finances than they would with like the disappointment or the frustration or whatever from someone else because you wanted to say no. And it just, I don't know. For me, that was always a big problem for me. And then like recently I'm just like, nope, it's just a no for me. And I don't really care if it makes you feel bad, like, sorry,
Yeah, no, this is so straightforward for me. And I think we're very similar in this sense. Like we're going to do what's best for us. And like, it doesn't matter what other people think. We've established those boundaries, but you're the adult. You have to set those boundaries for yourself and tell your family directly that you can't afford gifts this year. Sorry. Yeah. Your financial well-being, like you said, comes before their feelings and their disappointment. They aren't the ones paying your bills. So we need to focus on ourselves, right? Like I know a lot of people are in this predicament. I hear this all the time. Well, they're going to be upset with me if I don't give them this gift. And you're right. People are willing to go into debt so that they don't upset people. And I'm like, how are you going to feel about that 3 years into the future when you're trying to pay off these gifts that you bought for people and just so they weren't disappointed? Like it's really sad to me actually, but it takes some growing as you get older and stuff, and to really set those boundaries for yourself and realize what's important in your life and what's not. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. And like, it might be a little late for this year to kind of set that expectation of, I'm not going to be able to do gifts, but I definitely for the future, like, I think for my wife and I, what's really helped us is we've told people like, hey, like, please don't plan to buy us a gift. If you want to, we're not going to tell you you can't, but like, you don't need to plan to buy us a gift for anything, any holiday, any birthday, whatever. But the expectation is you're probably not going to get something in return. And, I would much rather receive like a really nice text or a phone call or a FaceTime from someone in the family, as opposed to them like scrambling to get me a gift or worse, putting it on a credit card or whatever. Like you have to set that expectation early though. And they might be a little late for this holiday season, but moving forward, just let them know, hey, like things are a little tough right now. I'm working towards, this goal or whatever it is. So please don't plan to get me anything. And I probably won't do the same for you. And at least it gives a little more time before the holidays, before the birthdays, to where they can kind of sit right with it,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move on to this next one. Now, this one is not about holiday shopping, but it is about spending on another special occasion. So this person wrote, I can't afford to attend my best friend's wedding and she is pissed. I've been best friends with her for over a decade and was genuinely excited when she got engaged. She recently mentioned that she was hoping for a generous gift, implying something around $1,000. I'm currently struggling financially due to unexpected medical bills and can't afford such an extravagant gift. I told her I'd like to be there to celebrate on her big day, but that I wouldn't be able to contribute anything significant. She was noticeably disappointed when I told her and said it would reflect poorly on me if I didn't contribute significantly since others have been so generous. Now I'm considering not attending her wedding at all to avoid the awkwardness. I feel torn between wanting to support my friend and being honest about my financial situation. Am I the asshole for not going to her wedding because I can't afford her gift?
This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Actually, this probably happens a lot more than we realize. Yeah. No, you're not the asshole. Quite frankly, this is not a best friend. This person quite clearly doesn't really care that you're at their wedding. They just want your money there, you know? You don't have a wedding to receive money. Like, I'm not understanding what this person is doing by requesting money from others. It's supposed to be a celebration. You're obviously paying for it. You might get a gift, but it's supposed to be a gift, not just like a request, you know?
Yeah.
If your friend can't understand that you're going through a hard time, regardless, I don't know if she actually told her friend. It doesn't say, like, she said she's struggling. I don't know if she explained it to her friend. Regardless, her friend was like, I don't care if you can still come, but you need to give me something, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, then they're not a friend. And I would definitely be cutting my losses here. I wouldn't be attending this wedding because that's not somebody that I want in my life. If they can't understand where you're coming from, even though you're willing to go to the wedding still and you're not able to, you know, give, you know, money or whatever, it's just crazy to me that this person would even make a request like that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, definitely not the asshole. But I feel like what the problem is, and I can't remember I don't know if this was just like the California average or the national average, but it's something like the average wedding is like $34,000. And I wouldn't be surprised if this friend or supposed friend spent like an insane amount on her wedding and was maybe hoping to recoup some of those losses from gifts and is now a little disappointed because of, you know, we needed $1,000 from all 100 members and then we'd be good. And it just, yeah, I feel like that's maybe part of it. But like, when it comes to your finances, like, you really have to put yourself first, and a true friend would understand that. I do think there's something to be said about like wedding season. People can tend to go a little crazy. Like, if it's not the groom and the bride going crazy, it's like the extended family going crazy. Like, someone is causing a bigger deal than it needs to be. But you know, I remember, I've mentioned this earlier, my wife and I got married earlier this year. And one of the things that we told everyone from the start, and we agreed on this, is we didn't want a single gift from anyone. Like, we hate the whole like gift giving, like shopping for it. It's just so annoying. So we told everyone, please, no gifts for us. But if you did want to do something for us, like, we have a cash fund that was for our honeymoon fund. So if you wanted to contribute something, like, greatly appreciated. But otherwise, like, I really, like, we've been living together for a while. Like, we don't need a toaster or like utensils or anything. Like, we're good. We appreciate it. We just want you to show up, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And that reminds me, whenever I got married, I didn't even have a bridal shower because I did not want all these gifts and like things that people don't need to be buying me. It just feels weird to me. So yeah. I don't know, this situation just did not sit with me well, but also it made me realize that like, you need to evaluate who's in your life and if they deserve a spot there. So for me, this is more about like, just cut the friendship and move on, and definitely don't go to that wedding.
Yeah. It's an easy no for me.
Hard no for me. All right, let's jump into the next situation here, back to the Christmas spending. So this one says, are people delusional about Christmas spending? Every year I say I'm going to be more controlled during gift buying for Christmas. I'm very organized and usually start at the end of September. I usually stick to my budget for everybody. However, I don't really set one for my husband or my kids. I've read articles that say the average person spends less than $1,000 on Christmas. I don't know how that's possible. I would say I'm closer to 5,000. Once you add in the tree, any new ornaments or decorations, food and alcohol to take to the Christmas party, Christmas cards plus the stamps, the grab bag gift at work and for the school party, teacher gifts, baking supplies, shipping costs for mailing gifts to distant relatives, etc. Please someone tell me how they do it differently. I know there are different levels concerning income and the importance of Christmas.
Yeah, spending $5,000 on Christmas is insane to me. Like, I don't think you could convince me to spend that much on like any event, any special occasion, but especially Christmas. Like, that's just an insane amount of money. But okay, like, she did say something, or this person did say something about like, depending on your income, like, if you're making a good income, I would say like, it's okay. Maybe it's okay if you have the rest of your financial life in order, right? Like, if you're investing, if you have an emergency fund, you have all this other stuff, like the $5,000 in that case, it's not the problem that you're maybe spending so much on it. It's really only becomes a problem if you're spending so much and you don't have your finances in order. Like, you're paying off debt, or you're trying to save up for an emergency fund, or whatever it is. Like, the amount of money you spend isn't the issue, but it's only an issue when you don't have your other finances in order. Like if everything else is in order, spend as much as you want, you know, especially if that brings you joy. Like I'm not much of a gift giver, but I know for a lot of people, like that's how they feel good about what they're doing. So yeah, if you have everything in order, it's okay, but that's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. Short answer for me is like, yes, I think there are a lot of people who are delusional around Christmas spending, you know, especially after the statistic that we talked about at the beginning. And I think you're right. If you want to spend your money and you plan it out and you want to do that, go for it. Gift giving is not my love language. I like to spend time with people and give them my time rather than a gift that they're going to probably donate in a year. But yeah, so this person, you know, if this is a problem for this person, and if you want to spend differently, then you have to spend differently, right? You need to set expectations with your family to maybe do like a gift exchange or something, you know? I think that's a big thing for people is they're like, I have to get a gift for everybody in my family. My husband's family is huge. So we've actually started doing like a white elephant gift where we like get one gift and then we play a game and it is so fun. Like I have more experience, like more memories from that actual game than like the gift itself. I couldn't tell you like the gift that we got from that, but like the having fun doing it and stealing the different gifts from, you know, the different people that play is just like super fun. You know, you're also going to have to probably cut back on your husband and your kids' gifts because you said that you don't really set a limit there. You know, and I'm guessing you don't need like decorations every single year. So little things that you can like cut back on that would probably keep your spending under control. I think the biggest thing is Christmas seems to be very emotional for people, you know, meaning that they spend on their emotions rather than like spending on the plan that they have laid out. But I don't know if this person wants to spend less, then they have to plan things out and like not deviate from that plan. But if you have the money and you love doing this, then go for it. I just don't think a lot of people do plan for it and they buy on emotions and they max out their credit cards and then they are really paying for it literally and figuratively in January, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of said it, but I think people fall into like the trap of convincing themselves that they need to do it or they have to do it or like, oh, it's my mother-in-law or it's my brother or it's my cousin, like, or that person did something for me this year. Like I have to. And they start to use that language where it doesn't feel like a choice. But at the end of the day, like you are making the choice to spend the money. And if it's not a good idea for you to be spending it, like there's no amount of saying that I just have to that can justify it. Like it's not a valid excuse anymore if you are not in a good financial position. Like if you are and you want to spend your money on that, go for it. You know, like who am I to say that you shouldn't be spending your money on gifts? But that's only if you're in a good financial position. Otherwise, it's just there's no amount of I need to do it. It's expected of me that is going to justify that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What do you think about parents with kids? I think this is the biggest argument. I want to be able to give them a good Christmas. I don't want to have to, you know, cut back on kids. And plus we all see the trees I personally see trees on Facebook and Instagram with all these presents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't even know what to do with all of that. But what do you think about that topic? I think that's a hot one, like with kids.
So I've mentioned this before too, but my wife and I are like, that's kind of like the next stage. Like we want to buy our home. We want to start having a family. And we've started to have a lot of the discussions around like, how do we want to raise our kids? And one of the big things was like no to gifts. And like, we're perfectly fine not giving gifts. Like, maybe one thing here or there, especially as they get older, they can start to remember it, or maybe like something more meaningful, but not like the toys or whatever. And the issue isn't we're in agreement on that. Like, that's not where the issue is. The issue is, I know, on my side of the family in particular, my mom she's a gift giver. Like, she shops all year for gifts just so that come someone's birthday or Christmas, like she has a gift. Like, she is the type of person who has like just general gifts in the closet. And if she forgets something, she's like, oh, let me go grab one. Like, and she's ready to go. So like, there's going to need to be a discussion with her. Like no gifts. Like, we are not doing, like, if you show up with a gift, I'm literally going to take it, not open it, and just like throw it away. Like, I know it's going to hurt your feelings, but like, we just don't want to raise kids who are like you always see those videos on Instagram where like the kid is just bummed out that they didn't get the gift that they wanted, or it wasn't like they got them like an Xbox instead of a PlayStation or whatever it is. And they just like throw a tantrum. And we're like, no, like, Christmas is about giving. It's not about receiving. Like, we would rather, let's go do something like maybe to help people out, or like maybe donate some stuff, donate our time. But like, Christmas shouldn't be about like, what am I getting out of it? So that's, where are you and your husband at with that?
I don't know about the kids thing exactly, but like for us, we don't do like gifts for each other either. We'll be like, yeah, let's go on a trip or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might buy a gift if we're feeling like, you know, we want to do that, but more than likely it's something we actually want and need rather than just like something random that's just going to sit around our house. We're pretty intentional about what we bring in because I don't like a lot of junk. I would say I'm a minimalist at heart.
It's so funny you say that because like I saw this meme on Instagram and it was like, you know, the reason why so many like millennials are minimalists is because their mom's house looked like this. And it's just like over cluttered shelves and like everything you can imagine for holidays, like just all over the place. And my mom was the exact same way. But I have a buddy who said this, that he made like this pact with him and his wife and then the in-laws that no one's going to buy gifts for anyone for birthdays or Christmas throughout the whole year. Like no one is going to exchange gifts in that group of 6, but once a year, they're all going to take like a big family vacation with both sides of the family. And like, it's going to be all of them, the kids, like they're going to go out and have fun. And the expectation is you save your money for that because you're not spending any money on gifts throughout the year. And he's like, look, the spending comes out to be the same, but the experience that you get out of it is like tenfold. Like you're not wasting your money on gifts that get thrown away a year or 2 years later. You're instead building these experiences. And that's something that we've also talked about. Like I really like that idea.
Yep. I always say experiences over things.
All right, taking a quick break from today's episode, Lauren and I have some exciting news we'd like to share with you. If you're feeling stuck with your finances and don't know where to start, we have you covered with our one-on-one financial coaching.
These are no strings attached coaching sessions that you can sign up for today. No ongoing commitment. You simply book a session whenever you need one.
Each call is 90 minutes, and by the end of it, you'll have a clear budget to work with and a solid plan to start paying off your debt. Plus, we'll make sure you walk away with some awesome tools to keep you on track, including our budget dashboard and expense tracker, as well as our debt payoff optimizer.
And the best part, you'll get to work with both of us on the call. Together, we'll help you develop the best possible strategy forward, answer your questions, and make sure you feel confident about managing your money.
So if you're ready to get a handle on your budget and kickstart your financial journey forward, check out the link in the show notes to book your first session.
We can't wait to get started with you. Now, back to the episode.
Now, talking about family vacations, that's the perfect segue into the next scenario. This person wrote, "Am I the asshole for not going on a family vacation because I can't afford it? I'm 24 years old and living almost paycheck to paycheck. My mom told me our family is going on vacation this summer, but I seriously cannot afford it. I told her I would try to save enough for it, but it probably wouldn't be able to go. She got mad at me and told me I should be going anyway and suggested taking out a loan or putting it on a credit card. I don't even think a bank would approve me for a loan, not to mention I would have to pay it all back, which would strain my finances even more. I apologized to her and explained that it probably wouldn't happen, but she got even more upset that I wouldn't even consider a loan. My dad and siblings agree that if I can't afford it, I shouldn't go, but a couple family members agree with my mom. Am I the asshole?"
This is actually really sad to me. No, You're not the asshole, but your mom is very toxic. So I think that there's something to say about that. Listen to your dad and your siblings who say don't go, because they're right. You know, hard no. We're not putting a vacation on a credit card or a loan, you know, especially when you're already living paycheck to paycheck. That means you can't afford anything else. Adding another payment onto that is just going to make things worse, right? It's hard for me to believe that a mom who's supposed to care about you would suggest this. Or, mom, why don't you just pay for your child to go if you really want them to go that bad? That's my thought on it, you know? This person, it's really sad that they're only 24 years old, but they're going to have to set some boundaries and protect their own peace, you know, when it comes to the relationship with their mom, because obviously there's some toxicity there. You know, boundaries are so important when it comes to your money. And I think it's time that this person sets some. If you can't afford it, you don't go. No matter whose feelings you're going to hurt, it's your life. That's the overall takeaway from this episode. It's your life and you're living your life for you and nobody else. Yeah. So this is
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like the recurring theme through all of these questions is that people want to say no, but they don't want to deal with the fallout of saying no. And at the end of the day, like you got to do what's in your best interest. And, you know, you said it, we're all adults, like we're all responsible for our own emotions. And the best thing you can do is, you, of course, be kind, be polite and say no, and then just stick to your boundary, right? Like your mom is an adult. She can deal with her own emotions. And if she wants to get upset, like you can't control that. And I think when you try to play the game of like, I'm going to respond to try to get the emotion out of her that I want. Like, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing her a favor. You got to let her be an adult. You got to let her be okay with the fact that you're not going to go on this trip. Or, like you said, Lauren, like maybe she's going to be willing to pay for it, which, personally, like I probably wouldn't go down that route, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But like, mom is clearly concerned with herself more than she is with you. And, if you're already living paycheck to paycheck, like there's just no going on this trip. Like it's not a question. Like you said, you're probably not going to get approved for a loan anyway. And putting this on a credit card that'd be an absolute nightmare. So it's a no.
Yeah. We could probably do a whole episode, and we probably will in the future, about like toxic family relationships as it comes to money. Because I think this happens a lot, because it's really hard when that person is your mother telling you, making you feel guilty for not going on a vacation that you can't pay for. Yeah, I think there's a lot to it, and it's really hard. I mean, we're giving like, pretty straightforward advice here, but it's like, I know this is a lot harder, a lot easier said than done, because this is somebody that you've been with for 24 years. That is your mom, so it's a lot harder to do that than we make it seem. But eventually you have to, or you're going to live the rest of your life miserably trying to meet your mom's expectations when you can't do that right now. So,
yeah. I was going to say, like, I think people are like, like you grow up in society being told to be like a people pleaser, and like that no is not okay. And like, you got to just learn to say no. Like it sounds so cheesy, but like no will set you free, because you can say no to things, not feel guilty about it, recognize that, hey, you're an adult, you're responsible for you, I'm responsible for me. We got to do what we got to do, Yep, absolutely. All right, let's jump into the next one. So this one is also about Christmas. So what are you doing to make Christmas less of a financial burden? So it's too late for this year, but this is my first year buying my own gifts for everyone. I have a big family, remarried parents, and 8 siblings. Add in a couple of close friends, and I was Christmas shopping for 15 people this year. The expense and stress of shopping for all of those people really took the joy out of Christmas for me, and it turned into an extremely high stress and busy month. I set a gift limit of $25 per friend/sibling and $50 per set of parents. But with cards and shipping, everything ended up costing me close to $500. What are some ways to avoid this stress and expense next year? Yeah, 15 people is a lot to shop for. Like, I don't know that you're going to be able to remove the stress from that, because you're going to the store 15 times, buying 15 different things. Like, that's a lot. But I do think you can at least try to alleviate like the financial aspect or burden of it. Like this person said, if you didn't plan ahead this year, like that $500 is probably going to be a bit of a shock to your finances, especially for like most Americans who can't come up with like $1,000 on the spot. Like $500 is a pretty substantial amount. But I do think for next year, you just got to plan ahead for it. And obviously easier said than done, but breaking this up over the course of 12 months, it makes it a lot more feasible. Like even if you didn't plan to spend $500 broken up over 12 months is a reasonable amount to save, so that come next holiday season, you actually have the money to spend it. It's not like a burden on your finances.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client one time who really valued Christmas. She really wanted to be able to like spend for people. That's what she really liked to do. And she was very stressed about it, because we started working together. It was close to Christmas, so she was not ready. But what we did for the next year was we did what you said. We took like what she would normally spend, and we took it and divided it by 12 months. So by the time she got to, November, December of the following year, she had that money already there. And to our surprise, like she went ahead and did it. And then she was like, I can't believe like the lack of stress that I had around that season, because I was already prepared. I didn't have to be like, oh, how am I going to pay for this now? When we're here and I don't have the money for it. So, I feel like this also happens like, this person seems young because they just said they just started buying their own gifts for everyone. When I was in my early 20s, it was like buying some gifts for friends and family. And then it sort of transitions, like your friends end up getting married and having their own families. And so you guys just stop doing that. Or you have a conversation like, hey, we're not going to do gifts for each other. Let's just go to lunch or something. That was my best thing to do with like some of my close friends, was just like, get together. Let's not buy gifts. We don't need any more small little trinkets or candles. Right. Yeah. So I think that's where they can set some boundaries with like friends, and then they've got a lot of people in their family as well. Like what could you do differently, there to kind of reduce the cost a little bit. But if you like doing it, then set the money aside for it. But you have to be prepared. You can't go into it with blind and have no plan for it.
Yeah. And, like I said, gift giving is not like a big part of like my finances, but like I've talked about in a past episode, Like we are very big on having a general sinking fund. We contribute to that monthly. And then if we need to spend money on a given month on something random that wasn't included in the budget, just kind of came up, we have that money set aside. But you know, I did mention it that my mom is like a pro at doing this, and I haven't started doing it, but literally anytime there's a sale or whatever, my mom will go pick up my grandma. They'll go to like Ross or whatever it is, and they'll just start buying gifts here and there all throughout the year. That way, by the end of the year, like, or come holiday season, they have like 80% of their shopping done. That could be one way you can at least alleviate some of the stress. Like if you're going to commit to buying gifts for 15 people, don't wait until December because you're probably going to pay premium prices and it's going to be a lot more stress. Like start planning a few months in advance to go out and start shopping for these things. Cause yeah, 15 people, that would just stress me out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big gift giver, and it's just not something that, like, even our families are not big gift givers, which is good. I mean, I know some families are, but we'll either do something small or just like, you know, I don't really give gifts during the holidays because I feel like I give my time and give little things here and there if I have to during the year. So that's how I really handle it.
I'm curious. So one of my friends who got married a few years ago mentioned that this like thing kind of came up their first holiday or their first Christmas as like a married couple, where she bought him a gift and like went all out, picked out a great gift, and then they wake up Christmas morning and she's like, so, you know, not to be weird, but like, where's my gift? And he's like, oh, like, we've never done gift giving in my family. And it was like kind of this weird, like, they didn't really talk about it until it came up. So did you ever have to like have a conversation with your husband and say like how did you two get on the same page that you're just not gift givers?
Oh yeah, we definitely like we've talked about in the past, like we talk about our finances. So that's definitely something we do. Like we will actively have a conversation. Hey, do you want to give gifts this year? I'm guessing this year we will, because actually since we moved, we are staying for Christmas for the first time in like 8 years. We're staying home. So I think it'd be cool. It would be cool to like buy a gift and open it on Christmas morning. We won't go crazy or anything. Like one thing that we, you know, maybe really want or something fun. But we will do that this year. But usually we don't, but we do have a conversation about it. Like, hey, do you want to get gifts this year? Or do you want to like put that money we would spend into like our travel fund? Like last year we went to like Mexico. So we did not get gifts last year. We just put it in a fund and we used that money whenever we went to Mexico. So yeah, that's how we do the gift thing.
Yeah, we're honestly in the same boat. Like, especially for our birthdays are only 10 days apart. And so we kind of like will tend to do something like together for our birthdays. Which is really nice because we don't worry about gifts for each other. Like we just plan like what is like the thing we want to do this weekend, or if we're just going to condense it all to a day, like what is like the fun that we want to have. And that's what we found has been way more like impactful than trying to like stress about what I buy her or what she has to, you know, what she's planning on buying me. It kind of took all the fun out of like gift giving, and it just became about like stressing about it. And now it's like, let's plan this fun weekend. We're going to go out. We're going to do something really fun. And that has been a lot more fun for both of us. But let's move on to the last scenario that we have. So this one's a bit of a longer one, but it's a good one. So this person wrote, I told my sister I can't afford big presents for her kids anymore, and now she's angry with me. My older sister has 6 children. Yes, 6, ranging from a newborn to 8 years old. I admit I loved spoiling my nieces and nephews when she first started having kids. It was a bad decision, but I was happy to do it. Now, several kids later, things have gotten out of hand. I just can't afford the same level of gifts for all 6 of her kids. This came to a head when I bought her youngest a gift for his first birthday. It was a new jumpsuit from a designer kids brand and one of those magic water playmats. My sister called me the other day and asked what I got him, and after telling her, she said, "Is that all?" I said, "Well, yes. Does he need anything else?" She said no, but asked when I stopped getting her kids such nice gifts. I told her that I could afford it a few years ago, but now it just isn't practical for me to keep spending so much for each of her kids now that she has 6. She took huge offense to this, telling me it was rude of me to insinuate she had too many children and that everyone picks on her for it. She said I should have plenty of money because I have a job and no kids. Ouch. I don't think she realizes that I'm not living in the lap of luxury, and spending so much money on her kid's birthday isn't feasible for me anymore. She's actually started telling her parents that I don't care about my nieces and nephews. I don't know what to do. It doesn't feel right to continue buying extravagant gifts just to appease her. But I don't want this to harm my relationship with her kids. What should I tell her?
Man, we do need an episode with toxic family members because this one's going to go in it. Listen, my sister has 7 kids, so I can relate to this. She remarried and he already had 3 kids, and then they actually just adopted 2 from the foster care. So yeah, I have 7 nieces and nephews, so I definitely relate to this. My sister's not weird about gifts like that though. I stopped buying them individual gifts when there were more than like 2. For the same reason. It's just too much. Like, even though I'm a person with no kids doesn't mean I can spend like all this money on your 7 children. Right. So last year for Christmas, my husband and I we were at home for Christmas, and we took them to the trampoline park and then to dinner because I think personally that like giving your time is the best gift of all. You know, they're not going to remember the Barbie that you got them or that play mat or that designer jumpsuit when they were 2. They're going to remember the memories that you made together. Right. So for me, I'm going to set boundaries with my sister and just leave it at that. Again, you have to just be okay with kind of the fallout from it, I guess. You know, you could do something like I did, do an activity, something where you're giving them your time, but don't feel bad or apologize because you can't keep up with the gifts, because in 17 years, when they're going to college, they're not going to remember those little gifts that you gave them. Right. Oh man, I feel bad that some people deal with family members like this.
Yeah. 6 kids is a lot to buy gifts for, but you know, I mean, she did mention it, but it sounds like maybe the sister's a little sensitive about people making fun of her for how many kids she has or something, like people say something about it. And so maybe she took some of that frustration out on you because I guess if you worded it a certain way or how you said it could have sounded like you were insinuating she had too many kids, which, you know, at the end of the day, she had a lot of kids and it was her choice. But like, you know, it's also not your sister who you're doing any of this stuff for, right? It's like you said, it's certainly not to appease her, but like the gift giving is for the kids. It's not for your sister. But I do think like the kids, especially at this age, would probably, like you said, appreciate spending quality time with them more than they would a gift that they're going to forget about or outgrow in a few years. Like going out and spending that quality time. Now with birthdays, like depending on when their birthdays are, it could be a little tricky, but even like, I really like what you said for Christmas. Like pick a day of the year where it's like, hey, like this is your time with your auntie. Like we're going to go out, we're going to spend the day and do something that all of you want to do. Sure, you're going to spend some money, but like that is probably going to be less money per child, first of all, but you're also going to have you're going to build a lot more of experiences with those kids where they know once a year they go out and they have like the best day or the best weekend with their aunt. And like that is probably going to be a lot more impactful in the long run than, like you said, like a Barbie or a toy or whatever it is that they're probably going to just get rid of in a few years, you know?
Yeah. And even since I have so many nieces and nephews, we don't do individual birthday gifts for them. Again, I am not a big gift giver in that sense. You know, they'll get a text, they'll get a call, but we save to be able to do that, you know, because taking 7 kids to the trampoline park is not necessarily cheap. And then taking them all out to dinner, like it was still kind of expensive, but we don't do the birthday gifts. We do that one big experience, you know, at the end of the year where we can all just get together and actually have some fun rather than me just getting them something off Amazon and sending it over to the house. So that's how I like to do it, but it's not for everybody. And some people are kind of weird about gifts, I guess.
Yeah. And like in terms of what she should say to her sister, like, look, you could probably try to explain the situation. Like maybe when things cool off, right? Like she's stopped talking behind your back to your parents. Like you could probably try to explain the situation, maybe like run her through the numbers. Like if I'm spending $100 per kid, you have 6 kids, like it's a whole thing. But like at the end of the day, like that's probably not going to do it for her. And like you have to set that boundary, which, you know, easier said than done, but you have to set that boundary and then stick to it. Because the problem is if you set a boundary and then you start to slide on it a little bit, and then that person knows, well, if I just kind of throw a little adult tantrum towards your way, like you're gonna slide on it. And once you're committing to setting a boundary, you got to just set it and then forget it, right? Like that's the boundary. I'm not going to slide on it. Like there is no leeway with it. And I think you'll probably find that over time, you'll probably have a better relationship with her once you two have kind of come to terms with this is the new boundary. This is the way we're going to move forward. And then you can actually stop resenting each other and just start enjoying being around each other. You know, being an aunt to 6 kids is probably going to be a lot of fun too. Like don't make it about the stress of buying gifts and instead make it about the fun. So I would probably lean more into the experience, like you said, Lauren, and less into the gifts because you're not getting as much bang for your buck doing it that way, you know?
Yeah. And like her question was more about she doesn't want it to harm the relationship with her kids.
Yeah.
She doesn't really say like, I don't know.
That's true.
Does, you know? So personally, again, I'm going to do what's best for the kids, and it's not buying them gifts. It's spending time with them. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's great. So, we covered a lot of tips and advice when it comes to holidays and spending on other special occasions, but we did want to summarize all of this, recap it into these 3 tips. So the first is learn the art of saying no. And like I said, saying no really will set you free. You have to just say no and then be okay with the fallout from it. And it's not always going to be pretty, but you are going to feel better at least about why you said no. Number 2 is to set clear boundaries for yourself and then communicate them. Because if you set a boundary and you don't communicate it, the other person's just going to not really understand what's going on. But if you are able to set that boundary, communicate it, then you are not really responsible for how that other person reacts. And third is to start planning ahead and spend on a budget. Like Lauren said, sinking funds, really great way to get ahead for the holidays or birthdays. Start setting aside that money now. That way, when it comes time to spend the money, you have a plan, you have a budget, you have the money set aside, you can just go for it. So Lauren, did I miss anything there?
Nope. I think you summed it up very nicely.
Nice. Cool. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Just Another Money podcast. And again, one simple ask, if you got value from this, you enjoyed what we talked about, or you laughed a little bit, please share this with a friend. That's going to be the best way you can help us grow.
If you want to have your money questions answered on the show, you can visit our website, justanothermoneypodcast.com, and click the submit a question button. And don't forget to join us for another episode of Just Another Money Podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.